Welcome to Love is Alchemy, a monthly free call by the Love Mandala, where our purpose is to really help people experience a strong foundation of self-love so that you can experience love, even more love in all your relationships. And we have a wonderful group here today. And really, I'm just here to facilitate some ideas and share with you my experiences, what I really have experienced works in relationship. And our topic today is about mirroring. So, and really, again, I always say this, but take what resonates with you and leave anything that doesn't. This is for you. It's not about something that I have to get across. So I do share the recording just of me on YouTube. So if you have a question you don't want to share openly, you can put it in the chat, or we can talk at the end when the recording is complete. So that's totally flexible. What we're going to do today is walk through what a relationship mirror is, how to identify them, and then do a little practice with working with an aspect that comes from doing that work. And then we'll just have a Q&A at the end. So one of the, are there any questions before I get going? Great. So one of the fundamental truths of relationships that I think people in psychology acknowledge, you'll hear about it in all kinds of circles, is that relationships act as mirrors, and especially our really close ones. So that's why sometimes our closest relationships can be the most challenging, because in some ways we're all showing up for each other and offering the gift of reflecting to each other, here's where you need healing. And it doesn't mean that the person who's reflecting to you doesn't need healing too, but it is a gift in the sense that it always points you to a place of aspect. And it actually, they also can reflect positive things too. When we see positive things in people, it also is something that's reflected in us as well. But we're going to talk about those that are more painful, that really give us some groundwork to grow from. So, as we work with these, one of the huge benefits of really learning to work with mirroring is that it takes us out of being lost in our triggers and gives us the chance to move from having that same issue with people over and over again, because then we know what to do with it. And we also are kind of aware of where is this coming from? Because if you've ever heard people talk about changing relationships, like you take your stuff with you, right? You don't really move from one relationship to the next and leave everything behind. Yeah, you might be with a different person, you might have you'd be a different age, whatever's happening, but the innate material that we all have in our core issues or whatever, wherever those are coming from, they carry with us. So when you begin to see, okay, I keep having the same kind of experience over here as I've had here, and especially when it starts showing up in a lot of places, it's really clear. It's like a very clear invitation to us. Okay, time to work on this. And you can just take it like that, like it's time for it to heal. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to see it as a negative thing. It's just that's what's happening. So let me pull up a couple slides. I have just a couple slides just to make it easy to walk through. And let me share my screen. And here it comes. Let me know if you can see that okay.
Yes.
Problem? Okay, great. Thank you. So with learning to work with relationship as a mirror, it really comes from a universal law that we often don't think about. You might have heard, it's a law that they call the law of above and below and within and without. But when I think about the reflection part, it's the within and the without that is the universal law that is part of what we operate in. And many of us are not even aware of what some of these laws are, but maybe you've heard of a few, like the law of attraction is one of them. The law of within without is saying what is within us will show up without us. So what is inside of us will show up on the outside. So the mirror is simply feedback and is no kind of punishment or judgment on us, but it's just literally a reflection. And the gift in it is how really showing us how we actually, where we can go for healing and pointing us for our own sort of development and evolution. And when we meet up with people in relationship, especially when we're in those, deep, romantic, connected, committed partnerships, we don't always know this, but basically we're coming and committing to healing together and being in touch with our lost part and their lost parts if we want to have more intimacy. So as we go deeper with people, it sort of like gives us the key to unlock, like, okay, we got to this level of connection. I want more, or we're getting stuck and I'd like to get past this. Here's the key to going to the next layer. And it's definitely a layered process, like most things in life. It's not a, one and done. Yeah, I don't know if anything in life is very much a one and done, but I think of it as, I think my friend calls it circling the drain. Like we go around once and then we go around again and we might do different layers of it. But so you never need to feel that if you worked on it, it's not going somewhere. We often have additional, just more opportunity to either master, or we have a different view of it that we need to look at. So we can think of it that way. The unhealed aspects really are easiest to identify. Let me go to the next slide. Is it starts with a trigger. And maybe people are familiar with what a trigger is, but just to be encompassing, I'll say, you hit one of these aspects when two things happen. You have really imbalanced emotions, super judgmental thoughts. Maybe another way to think about it too is when your reaction is bigger than what's happening. I'm sure everybody's had that experience where you're like, why is this, putting me in a state of just unraveling or, so much anger or so much hurt, when I know, even sometimes we know the person doesn't mean that. And there is, but we just can feel there's a lot of pain here. There's a lot of upset. So what happens in the mirroring is, like, often we start criticizing the other person because we feel a lot of judgment, or maybe we get super defensive and we don't realize mirroring is occurring. And then we just get locked in some kind of conflict and we get kind of stuck. And when we realize that a trigger could be a reflection for all of us and could say, okay, rather than let's get stuck here, let's see what's under the surface and beneath the surface level of, you did this, or I want that, or whatever's happening. Then we can get to a deeper understanding that allows us not even just to unhook from the trigger, but to move into empathy and to create intimacy at a different level. And so it's really ideal when you have two people that have this understanding, because then you can talk about it too. But you can do it on your own and it will have an effect. So let me give you, how about we do one example and then I'll kind of walk you through how, well, actually, I'll show you a little bit about how triggers work with projections. Let's do that and then we'll jump to an example. So one way to think of it is that mirrors are frequently a projection. And a projection is when, you see in somebody else, you're projecting something onto the other person that might not be there. And it can come from a lot of places. And these aren't the only places. There's a little more sophisticated version of this I didn't put in the list, but the basic ones are, is the projection. So let's pick something just so it's more tangible. Let's say you feel unimportant to somebody. And so you're feeling hurt and unimportant, and you say to yourself, okay, if this is a projection, is it that I do this? Do I do this to the other person ever? Do I ever make them feel unimportant or dismiss them in any way? And it can just be a little piece. Or maybe that's not true at all. Maybe this is not something you can even see. So you go to the next one and you say, is this a projection of feeling unimportant that I do with myself? Do I ever feel unimportant to me? Do I dismiss my own feelings, maybe? Or maybe I ran over my own, maybe I ran over my own intuition or my gut feeling, and then I got, frustrated and just ignored it and moved on. And that feels like I deserted myself in a little way. Maybe it's not that. If it's, sometimes we go to the third one and we say, okay, do I feel unimportant to the universe? Like, do I feel, could I be blaming, source energy or God, whatever you want to call it, for this experience? And I had an experience I'll tell you about in a minute that was kind of like that one. And once you go through that, and sometimes it's more general, so I'll give you a little bit tidbit on a more general one. Sometimes it just points you where,
Sorry, but I'm like new. Could you help me sign into the like app so I could sign up for classes? I just I don't think so.
okay, we're okay to go. So let me give you an example of a more complex one. One of those is, let's just say you have the experience of, I lost my train of thought there. Um, oh, okay, I'll give you a little example. When one of my kids was really small, she was super, super angry about her experience of being adopted. And she was this perfect baby, just super, super easygoing. And then she met her birth mom, and birth mom was just absolutely lovely person. We had a great experience with her. Her dad took her to see her. And when she came back, it opened something for her. And she became a child who was super agitated about that experience. And she didn't have a lot of words for it because she was only a few years old. And what our therapist helped us understand was that she felt like she didn't get heard in the experience of an adoption because people assume babies don't know what's going on, which is not the case. And so she would get really angry over small things and just burst into these anger outbursts. And I would get so upset, like I can't even tell you, like the level of upset, like I think had it been something that I didn't have a trigger on, I would have been able to say, like, she's just having a tantrum, she's upset, she just needs to be held. It was not even close to that. I was like losing my mind in terms of how I was reacting to it. And when I looked at the healing for me, I didn't have the experience she had, but I realized as a child, I did not express my own anger. And when I figured that out, I could shift and change, and then I could be there for her. But it took me a while to figure that out. But it pointed me generally to anger is something I need to look at. So that's another way to kind of think of it. Okay. So, and feel free again, if any questions, drop them in the chat. So let's do an example as we, maybe go through the uncovering the gift of projections. So a client of mine had an experience that she shared with me recently where a close family member was not listening to her repeatedly and like over and over, just ignoring what you said. And it really, really touched a painful place. And so the level of like that feeling of woundedness is a sign that it was really a trigger. And so we looked at what's the projection. And what she came to was, well, I think there is a part of her that was really asking her to be listened to more. So the projection was about herself. That was that second one we looked at. And there's an opportunity for her to listen to herself more, to really be more attentive to what that part of her really wants to say and to, be listened to. So now the acceptance part, as you look at this, so she's got the projection, the reflection, she's owning her part of it. Obviously, the person wasn't listening. That was a real behavior. So we're not saying that the behavior is not happening. What we're saying is that we can't control that behavior. So let's look at what we can do. And we're going to go into the acceptance piece. And this can be acceptance of this is just where we are in the relationship. It can be acceptance of the feelings and that there is something to heal. But some of that we don't want to skip over the feelings because this, I'm giving you a little bit of a process, but it's not the process that so much is the magic equation. It's the moving through the feelings, it's the applying the love that really matters. And so that piece is actually really important is to feel the upset, to feel to acknowledge like this, there's a part of me that's needing attention. And once we do that, it's much easier to move to the step that really unlocks and opens the door with this key, which is exploring the forgiveness and compassion and really allowing us to go, okay, this person, now that I've taken care of my feelings, I can see that yeah, they're not listening to me, but maybe I'm able to see beyond that, that they're struggling with something, or that from their background that they're just not capable of showing up in the way I need, or whatever it is that needs to be seen will be able to rise to the surface. And then if there's often forgiveness for judging them, and there's often forgiveness needed for ourselves and just judging ourselves. Like maybe we didn't handle that well and we got really angry with them and we don't like how we behaved either. And to be able to let go of all those judgments is where a lot of freedom and a lot of the gift comes from. So so this kind of gives you a little bit of a framework for how, we go through it. I'll give you one other example too. So a few weeks ago, I was just feeling super, super exhausted and really unsupported in like a whole bunch of places. So it was pretty apparent that like this, and then I knew this is a theme for me because of my childhood. I've had this feeling lots and lots of times, and it was very painful. And I was like, okay, clearly there's a mirroring going on. So when I looked at it, I realized I was basically blaming the universe, like, you're not supporting me, I'm not getting what I need. And it was really subtle. It wasn't like I was saying that to myself, but I could feel it. And once I experienced that recognition, then I could move to what is it within me that what was I doing? Well, I was feeling bad that I was ignoring my own needs. So there was this level of support that was missing for myself. I was really not paying attention where I could be. And I recognized I could make changes and change this experience. And so I just had my kids were really open to listening to me, which was really kind of them. We talked about, that I needed a little bit of change about how things were being done. And it opened like a great conversation. And, it took some courage on both parts to have that conversation, but it dissipated a lot of this energy. And then I was like, okay, this is a place where, I can really learn to look at a mirror, work with it, and shift something. And I've noticed now there are other places where I want to ask for more and I want to support myself more. And so, it's not necessarily just one place for me that I was finding that, but it was the beginning of changing a pattern. So what we'll do let me just leave us with this thought before we do our process. So while it's pretty simple to say, the process is to I identify, the mirroring, what's actually happening, to own it. What part in it do you have? What does it say about you instead of focusing on the other person? And then moving into, acceptance, feeling the feelings, and then going into, forgiveness and compassion. That's an easy process to put on a piece of paper, but it's not the process, but it's that really accessing the love that makes a difference. And so what I'd like to do is actually use the last part of our time together to just walk you through a little mini process meditation to take an aspect and let's work with one. And just because we're, doing this as a group and it's not super long, I would say pick something that maybe isn't the biggest trigger in your life, but something that is real for you, that you want to bring some application of love to. So if you're willing, I would, take a minute to get settled and let's do it. Let's try this together. You can settle yourself in with your spine straight so that all your energy can flow well. And if you feel tight or anything, you can always really use a little bit of pressure to just relax and help yourself feel that the tension's getting released. And let's just scan our bodies and check. Is there any places of tension? If there are, just be aware of your breathing. You can sort of send your breathing there. Just feel it going gently in and out. And almost imagine that your cells are breathing this air because they really literally are, right? They're getting oxygen from you. So you can send them a conscious breath throughout your body. And feel yourself settling, almost like you're dropping into your body on a little bit towards the back and deeper so that you can rest within you. You can think of it as up here in the mind. You can drop back towards the back of your head. And then with your heart space, imagine that you're kind of moving to the back of your heart and you're resting back in that space where your spine is. Mm. And then you may also take a moment to drop deeper into the back of your hips and pelvis and kind of feel yourself like, I'm really here in this body. I'm willing to connect and to be present with this. Feel your feet on the floor. And before we work with the aspect, what we want to do is really anchor in our hearts. So feel that center area within you that you would call your heart space. And just see if you can feel a softening, a relaxing, kind of an opening, almost like the petals of a flower that are going, like this, like opening slowly. And there's no need to force anything. Just let yourself be wherever you are, but invite it. Within this center is really a beautiful light that is coming from our center, down from above, through our crown chakra from above, what I'd like to call the place of unity and oneness. And you always have a connection there. You can see it as a silver cord, maybe, or a gold cord that goes all the way up, 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 back to where we came from. Whatever your understanding or belief of that is. We are resourced with love from that place. And then below you are also resourced from the earth. And so you also have a cord you can imagine going down into the earth, and the earth has a magnetic pulse and field. So it pulls you, connects you down. It's easy to connect. And imagine there's a beautiful crystalline core that you are connected to, like a magnet down there that just connects right to the bottom of your cord. And it's sending up resourcing energy from the earth and grounding you. And it's mixing with the light that is coming in from above. And all of it is soothing. So even if you don't have a particular issue in mind, you might just invite within you an aspect. Just invite a part of you that's seeking to healing or attention or love right now. And just hold it in your presence. And if it helps, you can even you can invite it to show you a form or color, shape, or any way it wants to show itself to you. And what we're going to do is invite it to speak with us and let us know, is there anything it wants us to know? And we're meeting it with the heart energy, which is very welcoming. If anything's okay to be heard. It's not about even fixing it right now, but just allowing it to be and to be known. And surround it with your loving presence. If for any reason you feel like you need support, you can call in and your guides, you could call in your higher self. Whatever represents that energy of love to you, you can invite it to assist you and expand this love. And if it has any need that you can address, you can take that information in to respond to after the meditation. But for now, just focus on welcoming it home, letting it know that it is cared and loved for. And it's welcome to either kind of release whatever's been keeping it apart. And you welcome, if there's anything to bring compassion to or to release judgment on, that's available too. Let it know that the love of your heart is always available to it, that it is free to transform and change. And all our aspects are always just trying to help us, even if they don't make sense in the moment. So you can thank them. And ask for them to integrate with you. And just tap into this feeling of connection throughout all of you, that you are one with your whole being, one with your whole being and aspects. And when you're ready, bring yourself back gently. Excuse our cat. I guess the kitty wants to be included. You can come back gently, just feel your body, maybe touch some part of you or move your fingers and toes or stretch a little. But try to keep your sense of connection to love. And I will stop screen sharing here as we wrap up, but thank you for trying that out with me. Look forward to when we pause to hearing your experience, but basically what we've done here today is touched on what a relationship mirror is, how to identify projections, and how to work with one. So I hope this is helpful to everyone. Thank you for coming, and love to have you join again in the future. Thank you for coming to Love is Alchemy, where love is the medicine.